Hello, historians. If you clicked on this link, that means you're interested in learning a little bit more about Catherine de' Medici. And I have to say, I'm very glad that you're interested in this one because she is probably the most interesting historical figure that we're covering in our Leaders of the Renaissance essay. Because while the majority of the other people that we're covering in the essay are generally considered to be good people, Catherine's legacy is not as black and white. So we'll get talking a little bit more about her. But remember, your question is not who had the biggest positive difference, it's who transformed society. So just because she wasn't necessarily doing it in a positive way doesn't mean that she didn't transform society. So here is the slide that you saw on your previous presentation. You get her job, when she was born and died, and what she was best known for. And here is a portrait done of her. So Catherine was the daughter of Lorenzo di Piero de' Medici, Duca di Urbino, and Madeleine de la Tour de Auvergne, a Bourbon princess related to many of the French nobility. She was orphaned within days. Both of her parents died. And so she was highly educated, trained, and disciplined by the nuns in basically was the orphanage that she lived in. Uh, but she married in 1533 due to her uncle, the Pope Clement VII, and she was married to Henry, the Duc d'Orléans, who inherited the French crown from his father, Francis I, in April 1547. Here, Catherine officially became queen. Artistic, energetic, extroverted, as well as discreet, courageous, and a happy person, Catherine was greatly esteemed at the dazzling court of Francis I, from which she derived both her political attitudes and her passion for building. So, Catherine's first great political crisis came in July 1559 upon the accidental death of her husband, Henry II, which was a traumatic death from which it is doubtful that she ever recovered. Her son, Francis II, becomes king, but he is frail and sickly. Catherine's second great political crisis came with the premature death on December 5th, 1560, of her son, Francis II. She then successfully becomes regent for her 10-year-old son, Charles IX. A regent is someone who runs a country when a monarch is unable to. So, since Charles IX was only 10, Catherine had lots of responsibilities in running the government for him. So, Catherine ruled during a time of extensive civil war in France. And this war is known as the French Wars of Religion. There were two main parties in this war, the Catholics and the Huguenots. And Huguenots is just another word for Protestant. So remember, the two types of Christianity are Catholicism and Protestantism, and the Huguenots is just the French word for Protestants. And both of them are Christian groups. The 10 years from 1560 to 1570 were politically the most important of Catherine's life. They witnessed the first three civil wars and her desperate struggle against the Catholic extremists for independence of the crown, the maintenance of peace, and the enforcement of limited toleration. In 1561, she began trying to win over the leaders of both religious factions to effect reforms in economies and to settle the religious conflict. Catherine appointed a mixed commission of moderates that devised two formulas of peace between the groups. Possibly Catherine's most concrete achievement was the Edict of January 1562, which followed the failure of reconciliation. This afforded the Huguenots licensed coexistence with specific safeguards. So that meant basically it was this legally binding contract that she signed where it said, hey, you guys have got to stop killing the Huguenots. And for the most part, that worked. So while she wasn't successful in stopping the war, she at least made it so that vulnerable groups were more protected. And now here we get into the messier part of her history. So Catherine may not have been all good. By the time of the massacre, Tensions were high in France between the Catholics and the Protestants, otherwise known as the Huguenots. In the hopes of establishing peace, a marriage was arranged between Catherine's Catholic daughter, Margaret of Valois, and the Protestant son of the Spanish queen, Henry of Navarre. The wedding took place in Paris, and Paris at the time was a mainly Catholic city. So when Protestants came in from different locations for the wedding, tensions rose. When Catherine realized the tensions in the city, she authorized the killing of Protestant leaders, which quickly escalated into the killings of random Protestant wedding guests and people who were basically just minding their own business. This came to be known as the St. Bartholomew's Day Massacre. This movement quickly got away from its leaders, and Huguenots were basically being hunted down in the streets and killed. And so remember, Catherine authorized this. She might have said, okay, we're just going to kill the leaders. And by the way, just killing the leaders is already a lot, Catherine. But if she says, we'll just kill the leaders, and then it sort of spirals out of control until just random Protestants everywhere were being killed. So here are her overall achievements. We saw these in the previous presentation. And you are done with your notes. You can go ahead and click on the other remaining links to keep doing research on Catherine.